Happy New Year to everyone. I'm delighted to be back in this year, 2026, and to have the opportunity to update you, the press and public, about what is going on insofar as the island of Nevis is concerned. Our last press conference would have been in November of last year. We ordinarily would not have one in December due to the fact that December we are consumed with budget both in Nevis and in St. Kitts. I am, however, pleased to be back here in January and continuing our commitment that we have made since I became Premier of Nevis way back in 2017, that we would have these monthly engagements with the press. So I welcome those members of the press who are here and those who may still be on their way. Let me start by expressing some congratulations to Mr. Kishan Warner. He has been promoted to Director of Guest Experiences at the Four Seasons Resort. Kishan is a local, and we're always happy when our local persons and professionals are given the opportunity to shine. And the Four Seasons continues to do a great job in allowing our cadre of professionals to develop and to be promoted and to be upwardly mobile. And so Kishan Warner, who is no stranger to the tourism industry, has got the well-deserved promotion to Director of Guest Experiences at the Four Seasons. I've had some conversations with the General Manager of the Four Seasons, and he has updated me, as he tends to do from time to time. But part of that update, he has indicated that they are putting together a cadre of young people from the island who they see as potential management material. I raised with him specifically my concern that after 30-plus years of the Four Seasons Resort being in Nevis, there had never been a general manager or a resort manager from the island of Nevis. And that it is high time, I think, that we start to allow our local professionals to aspire to the highest positions at organizations like Four Seasons. As a consequence, he has kindly advised me that we have a cohort of youngsters who have been identified: Michiana Autry, Nikisha Henry, Kevin Raymond, Tinari Chapman, Zamir Gives, Terencia Nisbet, and Margaret Castro. These individuals have all been identified for training, and we are hopeful that that management training program will yield the necessary results and that they, in the fullness of time, we may see locals being the general manager, resort manager, and holding all the management positions at the Four Seasons. This, to my knowledge, is the very first time that we have reached out in that way. And I think it's important the time has come now for us to ensure that our people are empowered and can occupy the top echelons, the commanding height of everything that is going on in our country. Let me pass from that to a note of condolences. I want to say to my dear friend Arthur France in Leeds, in the UK, that I extend on behalf of my government our deepest condolences on the loss of his daughter, Councillor Mahalia France. As the name says, she was a councillor, an elected official in Leeds, in the United Kingdom, and she would have passed away. Her father, Arthur France, who's from Nevis, was quite famous because he started the Leeds Carnival, the oldest West Indian carnival in all of Europe, and still going strong. I extend from this rostrum my deepest condolences to her family. I had the privilege of meeting her husband and children. They visited with me here in Nevis, and I was very, very shocked and dismayed to hear of her passing. And so I use this opportunity to express my heartfelt condolences. Let me also, to the family of Corporal Royston Isaac, extend condolences. Corporal Isaac would have served in the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force since his coming out in 1996. In fact, he did most of his service here on the island of Nevis. I think all of us who knew Corporal Isaac knew him to be a phenomenal individual, very kind, always very helpful, and I extend my deepest condolences to his family. There will, I'm told, be a vigil for him on the evening, that is this evening, Tuesday, 27th January. The gathering will be at the Charleston Fire Hall at 6 p.m. and 6:30 p.m., and we begin to walk north along Main Street to the Charleston Police Station, where a brief ceremony will be held. I invite everyone who can, please, to attend and show our respects to Corporal Isaac for the excellent service that he would have given not only to Nevis, but to the wider Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Let me, on that sad note, also extend my deep condolences to the family of Sterling Marshall, also known as Sterling Heiliger, also known as DJ Marshall. Sterling was a pioneer in many ways here, one of our earliest pilots. He was an early DJ, and in his later life he worked for Nevlec, our electricity company, I'm told, for 24 years. He had recently retired and unfortunately would have passed. I want to extend condolences to his entire family and all the people who knew him and loved him. To have known Sterling would be to have known somebody who was always joyous, somebody who was always helpful, talkative, chatterbox, some say, but he was certainly someone who people loved and who loved people. He played a lot of cricket. In fact, I heard that he was one of those who could hit a cricket ball perhaps harder and farther than most, which belied his slender form, because he was quite a slender chap. But he did an excellent job while he was with us, and he contributed immensely in several different aspects. And so I would want to say my condolences to his family that are left to mourn him. Let me move on from that, ladies and gentlemen, to say that on the instructions of our good people at the Inland Revenue Department, I am to remind you that business licenses are due at the end of January. This is important because we have adopted a new policy now over the past few years that you will not be able to get a business license unless you are up to date with your taxes. And so we urge you to go in and do what is necessary. We want our business community to be professional and to be responsible. And so we urge our business community who are now looking to get their licenses to ensure that they do what is necessary, that the business license could be granted. And just to advise, again, that the business licenses are due by the end of this month, that is January 2026. Let me move on to quickly look at some of the various sectors. The Ministry of Education, Library Services, Information Technology, Youth and Sports. And they've given me so much information, I can only speak to some of it. The Creators Playbook Workshop, I think that's important. It was a workshop done by the Department of Youth. And they successfully hosted this Creators Playbook Workshop. Took place 18 to 19 December 2025. The two-day workshop attracted over 40 young creatives. Now, why did I take this nugget of information and think it's worthwhile to share? It's because, as we know, so many of our people spend so much of their time online. And we are really promoting the idea that our people, instead of being content consumers, could also be content creators. There are lots of people now making a living from that phone or from that laptop because they become influencers and they become content creators. And so this was very timely, and I'm so happy to see so many people responded positively. This was facilitated by our very own Kashmir Evelyn Nisbet of Food for Cash, and she shared her expertise with this cohort of 40 people. This government continues to invest in our youth. The Department of Youth is announcing its calls for applicants. We have officially opened applications for junior and senior camp counselors leadership programs in preparation for our Easter Camp 2026, which is scheduled for 7th to 17th April. These programs form part of the department's ongoing commitment to youth development, leadership training, and community service, providing meaningful opportunities for young people and adults to contribute to the positive growth of Nevis's children. The Junior Camp Counselors Leadership Program. The junior program targets young people aged 14 to 17 who have an interest in leadership, teamwork, and working with children. Could you turn the volume down, please? Thank you. The Senior Camp Program is open to adults aged 18 and over who are passionate about youth development and community service. The registration deadline for both programs is Friday, 6th February, and we urge you to get involved in helping our youth. The Department of Education, Term 2 of this academic year officially commenced on the 5th of January. We, of course, extend best wishes to all of our students, teachers, support staff, in fact, the whole family, because sometimes we forget that the parents as well and guardians play a critical role. Historically, Term 2
also sees an increase in flu-related illnesses, and it's no different this year. We have already seen evidence of this increase. We therefore remind parents and guardians to keep children at home if they exhibit flu-like symptoms and to respond promptly when contacted to collect an unwell child. Influenza is highly contagious, and these measures are essential to protecting the health and well-being of both students and staff. Term 2 is also the most active period for track and field and school sports across the island. Schools have already begun hosting heats events, cross-country meets and relays, all leading up to individual school days and interscholastic championships. It's interesting I mentioned influenza and I start to cough. Let's see if I can get through. So we, of course, urge everyone to go out and to support. Let me take the opportunity to congratulate the Gingerland Secondary School. It has just celebrated 53 years of service. The Violet O.J. Nichols Primary School, celebrating 26 years. The Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School, commemorating 18 years. And the Nevis International Secondary School, which observes 12 years this year. We say congratulations to them, all of them, doing yeoman's service in educating our children and preparing the next generation. The EBPS, that is the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School, as part of their anniversary celebrations, they will host their annual Anniversary Relay Festival, and that's on Sunday, 1st February, beginning at 1:30 p.m. at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. This year's festival is kindly sponsored by A1 Farms and Carib Eats, and will feature relay teams from primary and secondary schools and track clubs across Nevis, as well as the invited participants from St. Kitts, including the St. Paul's Primary School and the Fast Twitch Track Club. We, of course, extend every commendations to the organizers and wish the event every success. The 2026 Giant Malt Relay Championship, we're pleased to report that occurred on the 25th of January at the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium in St. Kitts. We extend heartiest congratulations to the Charleston Secondary School, which achieved an excellent second-place finish behind the powerhouse Charles E. Mills Secondary, and to Gingerland Secondary School for securing third place in a highly competitive field. Worthy of note is that the meet ended with a tie for gold medals, which meant that the silver medal count determined the winner. Our athletes from Nevis performed commendably, and we take this opportunity to acknowledge the dedication and commitment of their coaches. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, people question the investments and the policy decisions that the government makes, and whilst we expect that to happen because we live in a democracy, I believe that what we're seeing years after is that the investment that we made in the Mondo Track facility is bearing fruit. Our students now, our young people now have a proper surface on which they can train, on which they can practice, on which they can prepare themselves, and we now see that they're competing even with a powerhouse like the Charles E. Mills, which, as we know, has dominated athletics at that stage, at that level in the Federation for many years. And so I say kudos to them, and again, it is the results. They say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The results are what ultimately matter. Nevis will proudly host the 2026 Leeward Islands Debating Competition from 25th February to 1st March, bringing together some of the region's finest young debaters for a week of rigorous intellectual exchange and regional dialogue. This prestigious competition provides an important platform for critical thinking, public speaking, and the exploration of issues that directly affect the Caribbean. We encourage the public to attend the debates, engage with the topics, and lend their full support to Team Nevis as they prepare to represent the island in this illustrious regional event. The Department of Sports. I'm very proud to say that the Department of Sports and the government extend heartfelt congratulations to the Leeward Islands women's team on the outstanding victory at the Cricket West Indies T20 Blaze tournament held in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, why am I singling out the Leeward Islands cricket team? It's important because we are proud of our division representatives, Roselle Liebert and Davernique Maynard, whose contributions were excellent. We are also very proud of the team manager, Charlene Martin, better known to some of us as Shatta, who also would have done an excellent job. And it's good to see when our local people have been recognized at the regional level. And so kudos to Charlene for being selected as the manager of this team and for winning the tournament. I'm also to report that we're having a medical fundraiser sprint-off. The Department of Education and Sports is hosting a medical fundraiser sprint-off, which will take place on Wednesday, January 28th at the ETW Park. The event brings together primary school, secondary school, and club athletes who will compete in sprint races, not just for sport, but for a cause. All proceeds from this initiative will go towards supporting June Quealy, the mother of Coach Royston Quealy, as the family navigates ongoing medical needs. We ask that you go out and support. Royston is a well-known athlete and coach here on Nevis, and we will lend every support that we can to his family. This fundraiser reflects the strength of our sporting and educational community. When one of us needs support, we show up together. And that is the quintessential Nevisian spirit. On January 9th, the Nevis Tourism Authority, in collaboration with Jane Hansen, executed the Nevis to St. Kitts Cross-Channel Swim media launch. The launch was part of a strategic media and PR campaign under the 2026 Destination Brand Awareness Strategy. This year, the cross-channel swim will be marked by the participation of Great Britain Olympic open water swimmer Alice Deering, the first black woman to represent Great Britain in Olympic swimming. Her involvement elevates the event to the wider global stage and reinforces Nevis as a serious and credible sports tourism destination. Incidentally, this particular swim started in Nevis over 20 years ago and has become now an iconic bucket list event for open water swimmers around the world. Jane Hansen, who is a sports enthusiast, triathlon athlete, and somebody who is an avid swimmer herself, has now taken over the mantle for this particular event. And I have challenged her to get the participants up to 1,000. Last year, we were close to 500, and she assures me that this year, the target is 750. We'll see how close we get, but we must reflect that when these folks come to participate, they bring their family, they bring their support team, and based on the analysis that we saw last year, the average stay was about 7 days that these athletes came and stayed. And they stayed in both St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm especially pleased that St. Kitts has come on board. The St. Kitts Tourism Authority has seen the value in this Nevisian experience, which is the swim. And since we're swimming from Nevis to St. Kitts, I don't know why I say we, since they are swimming from Nevis to St. Kitts, then it makes it possible for both islands to benefit. And the diagnostics that were done of the crunching of the data on the last occasion show that hotels and restaurants and car rentals on both islands were able to benefit. The 9th January launch secured extensive regional and international media across high-value audiences, including notable pickups from The Times in the United Kingdom, Travel and Tour World, Resident Magazine, and Drift Travel Magazine. The campaign is intended to strengthen Nevis's image and presence as a luxury destination. In terms of strengthening some regional partnerships, the Nevis Tourism Authority completed a tourism partnership exploration trip to St. Barth during the period December 4th to 7th. I have reported to the press and the public before that I'm very keen for the island of Nevis to develop a sister relationship with the island of St. Barth, and we have been working on trying to create that. Led by Andy Raveri, our CEO, and Shalicia Glassford, the Director of VIP and MICE, the mission included site inspections and stakeholder meetings to discuss strategic partnership opportunities via multi-destination travel. Since we have discovered that the profile of the traveler to St. Bart's is really the same profile of the traveler to Nevis, and St. Bart's has some things that Nevis doesn't offer, and Nevis has some things that St. Bart's doesn't offer, and the fact that we are so close to each other, a mere 15 minutes or so by light aircraft, we have decided that it would be useful to offer visitors that double experience, if you will, twinning St. Bart's with Nevis so that visitors can stay in St. Bart's but come to Nevis for our history, our hiking, our spas, and alternatively, those who stay in Nevis can go to St. Bart's for their beautiful French food, wine, and, of course, boutique shopping. So this trip was and is being considered by our NT officials as a great success. St. Bart's and the NT are currently working on featuring all things Nevis, our chefs, our musicians, our artisans, and cultural groups at Savor the Caribbean Festival St. Bart's, in the last 2 years, has prominently hosted one Caribbean island, introducing this island's culture to their people and visitors. So this trip is already yielding some fruit because we intend to be in St. Bart's in a major way in terms of our culinary, our arts, our culture. So we certainly look forward to engaging further with them. On the cruise sector side, we continue to see cruise ships come in, smaller ships. You know, those are the ones we cater for in Nevis. And in January, we're told there'll be 23 calls in January, 4,015 passengers, 2,948 crew members. Cruise is not a significant part of the Nevis product. That is more significant, I think, than the Sinkits product. But nevertheless, the higher end, the smaller ships do call on Nevis, and we're grateful for that business, and I'm sure the taxi operators and others are equally grateful. I keep saying to members of the press that I look at our tourism and development levy, which, as you know, we took the decision as an administration to increase from 2% to 3%. This is an amount that is put on the bills of those who stay at hotels and eat at restaurants. And that tourism development levy collection for January, which would reflect the activity in December, was $774,733.15, representing a 16.3% increase over budgeted expectations and a whopping 48.8% increase compared to the same period last year. This marks one of the strongest January performances on record and reflects, of course, the impact of the increased TDL rate, but also reflects the robust visitor activity. And so we're very grateful for that. Again, I think a good policy initiative, tweaking the rate, which does not put a burden on our local population, but certainly enhances the ability of the NTA to execute its important functions in promoting the island of Nevis. Recent international coverage has amplified Nevis's profile. The Telegraph dubbed Nevis as the best place for history lovers in December 2025. Nevis was featured in many other notable outlets such as New York Trend, Trip, Cast, 360, Travel and Leisure, Travel Weekly, and Resident Magazine, all praising our natural beauty, world-class hotels, beaches, and unique charm. These features, I guess, highlight what all of us already know, that Nevis is one of the Caribbean's most extraordinary places. Let me shift to a topic that is near and dear to me, and that is the Bath Hotel restoration. On Saturday, the 17th January, a ceremony to celebrate the restoration of Bath Hotel was held at the site of the Caribbean's oldest resort property, a property that we are told was built in 1778, and, of course, was famous and continues to be famous because of the Bath hot springs that are there. When the rest of the region was still thinking about what to do, Nevis was already involved in the tourism industry. And I'm very happy that we can claim the title of the birthplace of Caribbean hospitality. It was born here, a matter of which I believe we should be proud. The restoration project was carefully undertaken to conserve the building's original character while ensuring it remains a space for education, reflection, and community engagement. The evening honored the many hands and hearts behind this labor of love. I want to single out the United States Embassy in Bridgetown and the U.S. Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation. Their steadfast financial support made the Bath Hotel restoration possible. I'm told that their support was in the region of US $400,000. Additional financial support was provided by the Nevis Island Administration through the Ministry of Tourism. We remain the legal custodians of Bath Hotel. And, of course, this would not have been possible without the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society. I want to especially mention, I hope I have her name right, Ms. Abonga. I think she is the one who wrote the proposals to the Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation. And she made history because I'm told normally they would only give one grant, but in this case they gave one and then they gave a second. So I want to, Lorna Abonga, I think her name is, if I'm correct, I want to congratulate her and the entire team at the NHCS for making this possible. I can't mention Bath Hotel without mentioning also Mr. Richard Lupinacci, who has always been there, and Mr. Sylvester Mead, who was the main point person from the Nevis Island Administration's Ministry of Tourism. Sylvester is passionate about our history and preservation and has done an excellent job thus far in assisting us in ensuring that our historical sites are maintained at a good standard. And so I want to say congratulations to all of those who were involved, and also the contractors and those. I know he might be listening, so I want to single out my good friend Polo. I went up there and I saw that on the list they had Junior Newton, and I was wondering who Junior Newton was, only to know that Junior Newton is better known to all of us as the Calypsonian Badman Polo. And so I want to single him out. I'm sure he's listening. But he and the team did an excellent job there, and I congratulate all of them. Bath Hotel is one of the sites the Federation is considering for potential UNESCO World Heritage inscription, and so it is very important that we maintain that historic property, and we do so in a pristine way. Let me switch, ladies and gentlemen, to Culturama. Culturama 52 celebrates Nevisian heritage, and that will happen from July 23rd to August 4th. Nevis Culturama Festival will proudly host the 52nd anniversary from July 23rd to August 4th under the winning slogan, Our Heritage, Proud and True, It's Culturama 52. I like that one. Our Heritage, Proud and True, It's Culturama 52. The slogan was penned by Francina Morton of Libert Hill St. James and was selected from 343 entries submitted between August 15th and October 31st. As winner, Ms. Morton will receive a cash prize of $500, 2 complimentary ticket packages to all Culturama 52 activities, and a commemorative plaque. I use this opportunity to express sincere gratitude and congratulations to Francina Morton for penning, I think, one of the more attractive slogans I've heard. Our heritage, proud and true, it's Culturama 52. Culturama 52 registration is now open. Culturama Secretariat is currently accepting registrations for the following events. Soca Monarch, registration closes Friday, April 17th. Junior Kaiso, registration closes Thursday, April 30th. Senior Kaiso, registration closes Thursday, April 30th. Senior Street Parade, registration closes Friday, July 3rd. And Juve Troop, registration closes Friday, July 3rd. If you're interested, please get in touch with us at the Culturama Secretariat. Let me also just ask the press to ask this public to have a placeholder. Our Agri Expo 30 will be held on Wednesday, 26th and 27th March 2026. It is celebrating 30 years, and so it intends to be a grand event. And it's under the theme Rooted in History, Utilizing Land and Sea, Agri Expo 30. Whoever the creatives are coming up with these slogans are doing quite a good job, I think. Let me switch to the all-important topic of health and healthcare. The annual prostate screening clinic hosted by Urology and Associates, led by Dr. Dwayne Thwaites, was successfully held on January 10th, recorded an impressive 529 male participants. The year's clinic was expanded through the inclusion of pulmonary screenings conducted by DC Pulmonary Team, headed by Dr. George, allowing for a more comprehensive health outreach. A total of 204 individuals were screened for pulmonary conditions, of which 104 were identified as requiring follow-up chest x-rays. In a generous show of support, the DC Pulmonary Team provided a grant of $750 to assist individuals who may be financially unable to meet the cost of the required follow-up investigations. The Ministry of Health extends sincere appreciation to Urology and Associates and the DC Pulmonary Team for their continued commitment to improving access to specialized healthcare services for the people of Nevis and, by extension, to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Let me, as I single out persons, thank Ursula Phillip, who is a driving force behind getting the DC Pulmonary Team to come to us. Ursula is a daughter of the soil. I don't think she was born here, but her mom is from Brown Hill, and Ursula has taken an active interest in health and delivery of healthcare in Nevis. I want to publicly thank her and to thank the entire team at DC Pulmonary. I also want to make an appeal, and I'm not seeking to put anybody on the spot per se, but I think it's a matter of note that all of these free screenings that we're seeing are being done by non-Nevisians. I don't think Dr. Thwaites will take kindly to me describing him as a non-Nevisian because his mother is from Nevis, and he has taken Nevis as his own even though he was born in Antigua. So I'll exempt him from the description of non-Nevisian. and I will exempt Ursula Phillip from the description of non-division. But the doctors and the people who are volunteering, and I want the public to understand, these individuals are spending their own money, they are taking of their time, and they're sharing their expertise with us. And they're coming and they're offering significant services to us as a people. And my question that I keep asking myself is this: what about Nevisians who are abroad, who are in a similar position and can lend their support to us as well? Nevis has some outstanding physicians all across the United States and the United Kingdom. And I want to hear from them. Because if others can take such an interest in Nevis and are prepared to offer their services to the people of Nevis for free, at their expense, then I see no reason why Nevisians abroad, similarly placed, could not equally offer their services. Many of us in this room and many listening have benefited, for example, from our eye care program. That eye care program has been going for decades. Why? Because Dr. Huey and his team come from time to time, regularly, each year, to provide eye care services, not only to the people of Nevis, but to those in St. Kitts as well. I believe that it's a beautiful start, but I also call on our people in the diaspora who can contribute, please to do so. And I call on our people here at home, our doctors here at home, who can put on a free screening to do so as well. Let us see how we can all contribute to help ensure that Nevis and St. Kitts remain healthy. Let me also, at this juncture, issue a call to our women. We heard about the prostate screening. That was for our men folk. I'm issuing a call now to our women. The annual pap smear screening, facilitated by our community nursing services, will be held on Saturday, January 31st at all health centers from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. So all health centers in Nevis will have free pap smears being done on Saturday, January 31st from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. Women across Nevis are encouraged to visit their nearest health center and take advantage of this free and vital screening. A pap smear is a simple and effective test used to detect abnormal changes in the cervix that may lead to cervical cancer if left untreated. And the Ministry of Health and in the island of Nevis, we continue to preach at every step that detection saves lives. Early detection saves lives. Yes, the government has a responsibility to provide adequate health care, but each and every one of us has a personal responsibility to take care of our health, to eat correctly, to exercise, and to ensure that we get regular checkups. Too often, ladies and gentlemen, we see our people succumbing, dying in many cases, to diseases because they caught it late. Here in Nevis, people have been suffering for years and they say things like, oh, it's gas. You know, we like to say things is gas. In Nevis, your foot hot in you, you say it's gas. Your hand hot in you, you say it's gas. You say it's cold, you had a cramp. You say all kinds of things, and many of us are afraid to go to the doctor to find out what's going on. Most diseases, if detected early, can be dealt with. In developed countries, death from things like prostate cancer and from some other forms of cancer have almost been entirely eliminated because of early detection. Once these diseases get hold and they get to stage 3 and 4, there's very little that can be done. But if we go early, we take responsibility for our health, and we get checked, then it is far better. And we like to say that that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so if you have to do something, spend something, or take advantage of the free screenings that we provide. This government has made it a policy to provide as much free screening as we can. Why? Because we want to keep our people healthy. But you can provide a free screening unless people take advantage of it, then it is of little value. So just how some 529 men took advantage of the prostate screening this year, and some 204 persons took advantage of the pulmonary screening, we are hoping to see hundreds of women across Nevis take advantage of the free pap smear screening. We have also in the past offered free mammograms at our hospital. That's a screening for breast cancer. We have invested in the necessary equipment and technology at our hospital. I think when we offered that free screening, we had 399 women who came forward. So we are asking, please, our people in general, take responsibility for your health. Don't engage in activities that leave you in a difficult position, and then it now requires hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to try to correct or to save lives. Early detection saves lives, and as a government, we continue to preach education and provide the opportunities for persons to check their health. So I ask you, please, to do the best you can. The Oral Health Services Department is pleased to announce that digital dental X-ray services are now available both at the Charleston and Gingerland Health Centers. Dental X-rays play a critical role in the early detection of oral health issues that may not be visible during routine exams, including tooth decay, infections, impacted teeth, bone loss, and other underlying conditions. The introduction of digital X-rays enhances diagnostic accuracy, supports timely and appropriate treatment, and contributes to overall oral health outcomes for our patients. This service was made possible through a collaborative engagement between the Nevis Island Administration and Island Initiative, Inc. here on the island. I mentioned prostate screening. I mentioned pulmonary screening. I mentioned investment to allow us to do mammogram services. I could also have mentioned our investment at the hospital in our CT scan services. We now have digital X-ray services available for our oral care at our clinics in Nevis. For those out there who keep asking what's happening in health, these are the evidence, the critical pieces of evidence that we can point to demonstrate the progress that is being made and the investments that are being made in healthcare. On Thursday, January 15th, the Ministry of Health hosted a handover ceremony to mark the official commissioning of a solar photovoltaic PV system and new windows at the Flamboyant Nursing Home, made possible through a grant funding provided by Direct Relief in partnership with the OECS. The US $250,000 grant, which was shared between St. Kitts and Nevis, facilitated the procurement and installation of a 32-panel solar photovoltaic system, the purchase of 106 windows, and office furniture for the Flamboyant Nursing Home. These upgrades will significantly improve the facility's energy efficiency, comfort, and operational capacity. The initiative forms part of the Ministry of Health's commitment to sustainable, climate-resilient, and cost-effective healthcare infrastructure while advancing the government's broader green energy agenda. We recognize and thank the in-country project lead, health planner, Mrs. Erin Hanley, and in attendance at the ceremony, we thank them for coming from the OECS, were Dr. Roxanne Brizan, St. Martin, Program Director, Ms. Belinda Gregg, Assistant Procurement Officer, and Ms. Anella Jean-Marc, Project Officer, all of whom played key roles. We say thank you to all. The Flamboyant Nursing Home also wishes to inform the general public that its visiting hours have now been extended. During COVID, we had restricted access to the Flamboyant Home, and they have now seen it fit to extend hours again. In addition to regular visiting hours from Monday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, the facility will now offer additional visiting hours on Wednesdays and weekends from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., effective 1st of February. So if your loved ones are there, you now have additional time that you can go and spend with them. In a recent press release, the Chief Medical Officer of Health reminded the general public that we are currently in the active influenza season and encouraged everyone to take the necessary steps to protect themselves and their loved ones. I would have referenced this earlier when I spoke about our schools, and so this is flu season. We ask you to protect yourself. Let me move on then to the Ministry of Works, and more specifically the water project and water enhancement program that we have been engaged in. A drone survey was conducted from December 1st to 4th, 2025, to identify groundwater sources in the Hamilton Church Ground area. New sources in this area are expected to reduce civil works costs for supplying water to the geothermal site in Hamilton. Data processing is ongoing, and it is anticipated that these sources will support both the geothermal and drilling project and future developments. I'm also to report that our drillers who have been here working, recall that we have a contract with a company from Trinidad and Tobago. They have had to relocate from the Descent site and have gone to Hamilton due to ongoing difficulties stabilizing the borehole in Descent. The team will return to Descent once an additional drill rig is arranged. The Water Department have collaborated with the Ministry of Agriculture to install a 30,000-gallon water storage tank in the New River area. This tank will supply water to more than 33 farms across 111 acres. So that, again, significant investment in our food security. We can't grow food without water. It's a critical component, and so we are doing the necessary to support our farmers. We also have acquired pumping equipment for the installation of a well pump at New River, which will provide over 28,000 gallons per day. Again, an investment in our farmers and in food security. The Water Department is also pleased to report that we've demolished the fiberglass tank at Stony Hill. That started on November 24th last year, and we've commenced the site preparation for a new 500,000-gallon tank, which is now in progress. I'm told the tank is on island, and we're going to install that. Members of the press and public, you would remember that we have rolled out our water program in phases. Phase 1 was to fix the distribution problems that we had on the island and to replace our old cast iron pipes with modern technology using polyurethane pipes. Those blue pipes that we saw piled up all across the island, those are the polyurethane pipes. And you don't see it, and I sometimes remind colleagues that when people say they don't see progress, it's because the pipes are buried under the ground. So once the pipes were put under the ground, clearly you won't see them. But once you turn on your tap, you can get water. And I am very proud of the fact that water is available in Nevis 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in every single community. Let me say that again. Water is available in Nevis 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in every single community. That is not by happenstance. That is by investment. That is by policies that work, and the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. The second phase of our water expansion was storage. And we have created, built, constructed, erected, searching for the right word, I think erected is the right word, modern tanks all across the island. We had some old tanks that were leaking, and so we were wasting a lot of water. So to correct that, we have erected modern tanks all around. And if you drive like I do, and you go up the side roads, you will see some of these tanks standing majestically all across Nevis. Well, we have just bought another tank, this one with a capacity of 500,000 gallons. I think with this tank, it will take our overall storage capacity up to about 3 million gallons of water, which is useful because we now have additional storage for water. And then the third component, of course, is more water. That's why I would have referenced the drillers who are here, but I'm also pleased to report that the desalination plant gifted to us by the United Arab Emirates is already commissioned and already putting water into the system as well. So our policy prescription, our approach has been quite methodical. Investment, one, in distribution, enhancing the distribution network all across the island, getting rid of old technology, introducing new technology, new pipes. Not only do we have water 24/7, in every community, we also have eliminated the problems of low water pressure throughout Nevis. Two, more storage, modern storage. And three, now more water. I see that some other places are doing it in the reverse. They're getting more water first, but the question then begs itself, when you get more water, where will you store it? Because our policy here in Nevis is not to extract water and put it directly into your homes and businesses. We extract water, as I understand it, it goes to treatment, and then it is distributed. That is the way that we ensure that the water that you get in your pipes is potable, it's up to WHO standards. And so I want to commend all at the Water Department in relation to their efforts thus far. Construction of a well pump station at Maddens 5 began on January 2nd. That facility will house electrical controls and backup power for the new well that was drilled in 2024. And construction of the well pump station for Maddens 1 and 2 began on January 21st. So we are now putting in the supporting infrastructure so that these wells can be brought into service for the benefit of the people of Nevis. Let me, however, remind you that all I've described speaks to the investment that the government has made. There is the flip side of that now, people who pay for the water. And so we are urging our people to please to pay for the water. We have a policy that we don't disconnect persons unless they're in arrears for 3 months or they have significant usage that they've not paid for. And so you have better credit terms than any facility in Nevis. 3 months, no interest. There's no excuse for people to be disconnected. Please go in. We prefer to collect than to disconnect. So go in. If you can't pay the whole bill, come to an arrangement. But please, water is such a critical resource. All of us need it. Let's conserve it. Let's also try to pay for it so that we can keep the water system in Nevis at the global standard that it is. Some of you on your way here would have seen just across the street from this building a massive excavation going on there. And many have called to ask me what's happening. Well, Nevis is proud that we are starting construction on a Bureau of Standards laboratory. That is a gift from the United States of America via a diplomatic note dated December 15th. The United States of America, the embassy, confirmed humanitarian assistance funding for the construction of a Bureau of Standards laboratory at Pinnes, Nevis. The United States Southern Command Civil Military Operations Directorate has awarded a construction contract for the Bureau of Standards at an estimated cost of US $2,513,612. This is a significant, significant gift from the United States of America, and I say thank you to them. Oversight will be provided by the Naval Facilities Engineering Systems Command. TechSol Integration Group, a U.S. contractor based in Puerto Rico, is the prime contractor selected by them, and Affluent Homes Limited, a Nevis-based construction company, is serving as a subcontractor, also selected by them. Upon completion, the laboratory will provide advanced services in food, water, and environmental testing, including microbiology, meteorology, serology, parasitology, histopathology, necropsy, and decontamination. It will also offer precision testing of instruments, gauges, and scientific equipment to ensure accuracy and compliance with standards and regulations. So all like weights and measures, the calibration at the pump, at the gas station to make sure that you're actually getting a gallon of gas, testing for mold, testing for our water to ensure that it's acceptable. All of these will now be done in Nevis. It was not possible to do that before. And so I thank very much the leadership of Minister Brand and his team, Mr. Brian Dyer, at the disaster preparedness. They were the lead on this particular project, and they have been the entities interfacing with the United States Southern Command Civil Military Operations Directorate, and we have, all of us, been the beneficiaries of a grant of over $2.5 million for that particular project. Let me move to a topic that's near and dear to me, and that is our fledgling film industry. You all have heard me time and time again urge, both at the national level and at the local level, that we need to do more to diversify our economy. Nevis is heavily dependent on tourism, as you know, and we suffered tremendously during COVID as a result. St. Kitts has been heavily dependent on citizenship by investment. That now is in free fall, significant decline. And we have in Nevis not waited. We have continued to make every effort to diversify. I just returned from Barcelona in Spain, where I attended an ICE conference, ICE, and that is the largest online gaming, iGaming conference in the world. There were over 60,000 people at this conference. I attended that conference because Nevis is now trying to make a name for itself in getting out there and marketing itself as an online gaming destination. The legislation was debated and passed in the Nevis Island Assembly in April of last year, and we started to issue our first licenses in December of last year. We have a very robust infrastructure in place, adequate due diligence and compliance protocols in place, and we feel that this can be developed responsibly and done right. Nevis has looked at other jurisdictions, Malta, the Isle of Man. We have seen Curacao and what they've been able to achieve, and we feel that it is a model that we can look at, again, in an effort to diversify the local economy and to generate revenue, much needed, for the advancement of the development of our island and our people. We keep trying. And so that effort on my part, I was there for 2 days. Barcelona was very cold and very rainy, and it looks like it was influenza season there too. But I was there for 2 days promoting the idea of doing this type of business with Nevis, and I can say that the press response has been absolutely phenomenal. There have been a number of inquiries already, and we are hoping that that will generate significant revenue for the island of Nevis. What we have done, as I explained when this bill was debated, is we have decided to enter into a contract with a single provider through the Nevis Online Gaming Authority, and therefore all applications will go there. They will be processed there, the due diligence done, the investigations done, the background checks done. Then they go to the regulator. The regulator then reviews, makes a determination, and then makes a recommendation to the minister, who will then decide whether to sign or not that license. And so that is the position that we have. And so I'm very happy to report on that. And I move quickly now to the film industry, because film is also part of what we're seeking to do. And I'm very pleased to say that a Hollywood-based production company, the Ninth House Films, is currently on island, filming an upcoming full-length feature, as well as a vertical miniseries for a major TV network. Exciting updates will be sent to you in due course, but I can tell you that this particular film features some well-known actors, some persons I think that you will be familiar with. I'm told that I can't say too much. I'm not sure why, but I'm trying to do the best that I can. But let me just say to any of you who's trying to get your groove back, that some of those people who are in this film were also on screen trying to get grooves back. A very famous movie that was done, if you recall. I think it was centered in Jamaica. So if you've seen that, you may have a hint of some of the stars that I'm talking about. But an excellent initiative, and certainly some good work being done by the Nevis Film Commission. The PBS Hometowns Historic International Episodes, PBS Appalachia, operated by Blue Ridge Public Television, Inc., is pleased to announce the upcoming international premiere of its Emmy Award-winning original series, Hometowns, a two-part special exploring the culture, history, and modern identity of the island of Nevis. The beauty of, let me see what it says here. Yes, with 18 Emmy Awards, including overall excellence, PBS's Appalachia's production team brought its signature storytelling approach to Nevis for the first time. The Nevis episodes will reflect the spirit of Hometowns, exploring where a community comes from, what keeps its people rooted there. The series typically features towns across Virginia, but Nevis is the first international location in its history. That name, Nevis, I hope you all are getting accustomed to it. Nevis. First time that PBS is coming outside the U.S. to look at any destination. It's Nevis, and they're doing this Hometowns, a two-part episode. For those of you interested, and I hope all of you will be interested, Hometowns Nevis Part 1 will officially premiere on Thursday, February 5th, and Hometowns Nevis Part 2 will premiere on Thursday, February 19th. You will be able to stream the episode from Nevis and abroad on the free PBS app, on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, and smart devices, on PBS Passport, on PBS Appalachia website and social channels. Please do not miss it. You may see yourself on film. Let me also congratulate Juliet Jeffers, our own, and the local cast and crew for a short film that was done here called Pangirl. Pan Girl has now been officially selected at the Pan-African Film Festival in Los Angeles. The Pan-African Film Festival is the largest African-American film festival in the United States and has featured leading actors such as Denzel Washington, Jamie Foxx, Angela Bassett, and others. The festival hosts numerous panels and networking sessions with industry decision makers. The festival statistics show 85,000 people attend, 504.9 million online and print in terms of who they're exposed to, 516,000 national TV audience, and 112,000 unique website users. And Nevis again, that name, Nevis, will be featured there. Pan Girl has been selected as one of the films that will be featured at the Pan-African Film Festival in Los Angeles. Huge congratulations to them. And as you know, Pan Girl features a local actress. Well, it features mostly local talent, but a local actress, a young lady. What's her name? Help me, Pierce. Nyla's younger sister. Nyla, the Culture Armor Queen. Daniel, young Miss Daniel, is the prime actress there. And the fact that this now will be featured in Los Angeles, I think, is significant for the island of Nevis. And Juliet Jeffers, who's a Nevisian actress, who has appeared in this Kings of Tulsa, I think it's called, something of Tulsa, and also films like Law and Order in the U.S. All of this has really burnished her reputation, and we now see that she has brought that home. And I want to stay for 30 seconds on Juliet Jeffers. Juliet Jeffers is Nevisian. Juliet Jeffers has made a name and is making her mark in Hollywood, in film, in television. What did Juliet Jeffers do? Juliet Jeffers reached out to us and said, how can I contribute? How can I lend what I have learned in America to Nevis, my homeland? And Juliet Jeffers has come. She has had acting classes here. She has engaged here. And she has now come back and done Pan Girl here, using largely local cast and crew. Again, I appeal to our diaspora. You all can do more. I want you all to do more. This is my invitation to you to come home and help us to build Nevis. Juliet didn't have to. Her love of Nevis is what caused her to. And here it is that this film done by her in her homeland of Nevis is now to be featured at the Pan-African Film Festival in Los Angeles. You see, why I'm being so passionate about this is because a lot of our people in the diaspora, I think, have a lot to offer. For whatever reason, some of them choose not to. And many choose only to criticize. I hear the argument being advanced, oh, Nevis is backward, Nevis doesn't have this, and Nevis doesn't have that. But these same people are spending all of their time in other countries, paying their taxes, investing in homes and properties, raising their children, lending their brilliance, their minds and expertise to the development of those countries. And I say, how then will Nevis advance if our own people don't take an interest? I talk a lot about foreign investment. It is my job to go out and to seek foreign investment. But wouldn't it also be good for us to talk about investment from our own people? And many of our people are doing very well. Many of them are very accomplished in the lands that they've chosen to live. And all I do, I keep asking them, please, make a contribution to the land of your birth. Come home, I said it earlier with the doctors. Do some free screening for us. Donate some equipment to us. Help us. And to others. Look at Juliet Jeffers. I'm an actress. I know how to act. How can I help Nevis? I want that to become our mantra, our posture. How can we help Nevis? I believe it was attributed to President John F. Kennedy, who said, we should not ask what our country can do for us. We should ask what we can do for our country. I think for far too long, too many have been asking what the country could do for me. The question that we should now be asking is, what can we do to aid the development of this land that we all love? Simply criticizing is not enough. Taking a photo of a pothole and posting it on social media is not enough. Because I'm pretty sure that there are potholes in Washington, D.C., and in New York City, and in Miami, and everywhere else in the world as well. But there seems to be almost a passion for some to criticize everything that is done on Nevis, without then also saying, I have a responsibility as a Nevisian to try and help. So I want our people to start to try and help. That for me is very important. Let me thank Cape Air, because Cape Air has been a very, very strong partner with us, both of the Nevis Film Commission and movies at NEPAC. They have sponsored the Film Focus. Their commitment to regional connectivity and creative arts make a meaningful impact on our community. And as partner, KPS sponsors prize giveaways of 8 tickets between Nevis and the USVI. Film Focus Nevis is a monthly screening initiative. Members of the press, help me promote it. It's a monthly screening initiative at NEPAC. And it provides a platform for local, regional, international industry professionals to share their stories, while also promoting Nevis as a film destination with its scenic landscapes and growing creative sector. The project was introduced in partnership with the Nevis Film Commission and movies at NEPAC. And I ask you to look out for their next engagement and to be a part of it. Earlier this month, Film Focus, Nevis, and the NHCS, the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, were a partner to raise funds for the NHCS Scholarship Fund by screening the original Broadway show Hamilton at NEPAC. I hope you went out and you enjoyed that event. The following online and print media published articles have featured the Nevis Film Commission. They have a combined audience of tens of millions. Movie Maker Magazine, E-Online Canada, E-Online USA, US Weekly, Yahoo Entertainment, Reality T, Page 6, New York Post, quite famous, Gossip Addict, Drift Travel Magazine, Bravo, Primetimer.com, AOL.com, News Now Chicago. And we thank Ceci C Communications for securing such excellent press coverage for Nevis and for our journey into film. I will leave matters there now and invite any questions that you may have in anything I've said or any other matter that is impacting your mind. Thank you very much.
Morning, Mr. Premier, and good morning to those who are here and also those who are listening and also viewing. Mr. Premier, I have a few questions. Question 1. Can we get an update about the Destiny proposal? It would have been said that preferably the agreement would be signed by December 2025. What is the progress on the work at the airport? Can we get an update about the geothermal project? What is the progress on the broiler facility at Prospect? Are there any plans in place for the old space of the Charlestown Health Center and the dental clinic? Also, in the wake of the Prime Minister's announcement of St. Kitts and Nevis accepting third-party CARICOM nationals, does Nevis have the capacity to accommodate these persons? And, Mr. Premier, is it really only CARICOM nationals that we will be accepting? How many for 2026 will be arriving? And, Mr. Premier, why can't those nationals return back to their own island or country? I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Let me drink some water. Ms. Budgeon, thank you. You know, I mean, you started off the new year with some pace. Destiny proposal, I can report that the Nevis Island Administration, after exhaustive town halls and stakeholder engagements and feedback and exhaustive engagement with the proposers for Destiny, that we would have sent our approval for this particular project to the attention of the Prime Minister on the 23rd of December 2025. That's the date that I'm advised it was sent. The proposal has gone through, the agreement has gone through various iterations. The agreement, of course, is not yet signed, but we have signaled to the Prime Minister that we are comfortable with what has been proposed, and that was done on the 23rd of December. As we know the process, it now shifts to Bastille for them to look at it, but we are expecting that that will be dealt with in short order, largely because this is a Nevis project. This is not a federal project. It is not a Sinkits-based project. It's a Nevis project. And the Nevis Island Administration has determined that this project will advance the development of the island of Nevis. And we stand behind the project because we think it's a good project for Nevis. We have heard the concerns expressed, and we have sought to address those concerns publicly in a forthright way. And, of course, to bring this into being, ultimately the agreement will be made public and will have to go to the Parliament. So we're not yet at that stage because the agreement has not yet been signed. But I can say that we've signaled that we are supportive of this development moving forward. I can tell you that as I moved around over the Christmas season and the holiday season, the bars and the various shops that I go to, that a lot of the questions that were posed to me was, when is this thing going to start? People are anxious for development, people are anxious for business, people are anxious for work. When is this going to start? Which is a far cry from what you hear the pundits on radio and online saying. So we seem to have quite a dichotomy in the country. You have the pundits who are saying every imaginable evil about this proposed project, and then you have the man on the ground, so to speak, who's saying, listen, let's get going. We want activity, we want work, and they keep highlighting the fact that that particular area of Nevis has no development there, has not seen any development in the last 100 years, and is unlikely to see any development unless either a very wealthy investor were to come, as these have come, or alternatively, some government in the future were to have hundreds of millions of dollars to put in infrastructure to open up those lands in that area. Absent that, I think that area is going to remain as it now is, with nothing happening over there, and with the lands being continually eroded from the sea. That is the biggest activity happening on the South Coast, is erosion from the sea. So people are anxious to get going on this, and we have heard, as I said, but governments are elected to govern. Governments are elected to lead, and no decision, none, will ever have the complete support of the populace. So we have to make the best judgment that we have as the persons elected by the people of Nevis and trusted by the people of Nevis to lead. And we have signaled to the federal government that we are in favor of this project. And in favor, we have sent the final iteration of the agreement on to Bastille for them to have a look at it. So we're waiting, of course, for word from them. We're hopeful that we can move because these developers are quite anxious to get going, to get boots on the ground, to get backhoes in the soil, to get trucks moving, to get people hired, to get offices opened, and to progress. And that is what we're seeking to achieve. The airport project, just on my way here, I got a report from the project manager, who is Mr. Michael Perkins, and he indicated that they're currently on site with the surveyors, mapping out the coordinates in terms of roads and all of that. We were held up because the land acquisition has taken quite some time, the legal aspects of it, but we have asked permission from landowners, even if sometimes the transfer has not yet been finished, that we be allowed access. And so they've been kind enough to allow us, and so they're currently mapping out. So if you're in that area and you see clearance happening, it's all part of the, how should I say, the soft start to the project. They're doing that, and we anticipate that we're going to have a hard start to the project, actual heavy equipment rolling in very short order. We have been able to secure the funding, and it is just now a matter for finalizing all of the designs, and so that we can get going. And the survey is a critical part of that, and so the surveyors for the consultant on the project are currently on island. I'm told they'll be here for 2 weeks, doing the necessary mapping out. I think if you have come to any of the town hall meetings, you'll realize that we are talking about a brand new road, some roundabouts, and so all of that requires significant technical work that they are seeking to complete. Geothermal, Ms. Budgeon, you asked, and just yesterday I was able to host a large delegation from the Caribbean Development Bank, who came yesterday and met with us right in this room concerning not only geothermal but other projects that they've been involved in as they're now looking to roll out a new country project sort of implementation strategy for St. Kitts and Nevis. I was very pleased to engage with them, and from here we all journeyed up to the geothermal site at Hamilton, the first site. I can say that matters are moving, not as fast as I would like. I've said to them that, sometimes the technical aspects don't move as fast as the political will, but nevertheless matters are moving. I believe that I was advised that there were some just final questions to be responded to in terms of the bid process, but we have selected a driller, and I believe that that has been made public already, I'm advised. So that drill is Icelandic Drilling. They were the successful bidder, and we hope to have formal documents signed next month. This is what I'm advised, in February, and thereafter it's for mobilization and to get going. I anticipate, therefore, that we should have drilling commencing this year. Simultaneously with the drilling, we are going to be issuing the necessary RFP, request for proposals, and the draft PPA, power purchase agreement, to potential suitors who want to invest in the plant. So we'll be doing the two things in parallel to move this forward. The CDB is committed, 100% on board. They see this as a significant project for them, as of course the Green Climate Fund, and we are hopeful therefore that we can move forward with haste now that we have a bidder selected, and subject only to some minor matters with that bidder. I'm told we are now waiting for something back from the CDB, and therefore we should be ready to make a formal signing and to move forward. So I think that we've had progress, not as fast as I said as I would like, but progress nevertheless. And if you can sign off on the production drilling contract in the coming month, I anticipate that that therefore would put us in good stead and good striking distance to start the drilling. The broiler facility at Prospect, I regret that I do not have an update for you today. I don't have one because I asked for one and I didn't get it in time. But as far as I know, that project should be ongoing. I will continue to check. That project is being led by Minister Evelyn, our Minister of Agriculture, and Minister Brand, our Minister of Works. They've been collaborating on that particular project at the request of the Cabinet. And I believe that a Canadian company, I can't remember the name now, has been contracted to do the work. So I will hope to have an update for you at some other time. The Charleston Health Center and Dental Clinic, nothing is happening there at the moment. The intention, as I gather from our Minister of Health, is to renovate and improve and modernize that facility. But in the meantime, we have relocated the Charleston Health Center up to the Wards building, which is right there next to Island Tires, and that's where we're now serving the public from. So we apologize for that, but of course the building there is an old building, and it had fallen into disrepair, and we thought it was unsafe. So currently we don't have any plans that are formalized or finalized for that. But it is a matter that I'm advised we intend to take on board to try to see how we can develop that bit of infrastructure there in the heart of Charlestown. You said St. Kitts is accepting third-party nationals, deportees, refugees, whatever, and you asked about Nevis's capacity. I can tell you that we have not had that discussion at the national level. I, like you, have been seeing reports of what has been discussed. It is perhaps one of the failings of our system of governance in St. Kitts and Nevis that the federal government is responsible for certain things, and this lies squarely within the federal government's responsibility. But sometimes, because you're responsible for something, sometimes I don't think they sense that there's a need for discussion. And so we have not really had any discussions on the matter. Bear in mind, and I think that this is important, that any individual who comes into St. Kitts and Nevis is in the entire country of St. Kitts and Nevis. Nevis does not have any separate border. So when the Prime Minister announces that individuals will be accepted, he is making that announcement on behalf of St. Kitts and Nevis. Because if an individual were to come in tomorrow, lands at RLB, but decides he prefers to be in Zion in Nevis, then nobody in Nevis can stop that individual from coming to Zion. So it really would be helpful that there is greater engagement and dialogue on these matters. Having said that, I really can't tell you what our capacity is in Nevis, carrying capacity, because at this juncture I have no information in terms of what the numbers are likely to look like. That is the numbers of individuals that we expect to return. This whole matter has not had much clarity in terms of what we expect, who we expect, and you ask the question if it's true or something to that effect that only CARICOM nationals. I can only take the Prime Minister at his word. That is what he said. I have not been privy to any of the discussions or any of the negotiations in relation to this. Clearly, I'm in opposition at the national level, so I would not be in the room when these matters are being discussed. But I think that it is a development that must cause all of us some concern, because it is really the evidence of how sometimes our sovereignty doesn't mean as much as the sovereignty of other nations. And what we have happening really is the fact that the United States has asked these various countries in the Caribbean to take these individuals. Some, I've realized, have postured and said, well, we should have said no. But the question we must ask ourselves is, if we said no, what would the consequences have been? A lot of times we ignore the difficulties of leadership. Our jobs often are very easy because we can sit down all day and criticize. It's easy to do. But let us paint a hypothetical. Let us say that the United States said to St. Kitts and Nevis, we are asking for your partnership, and we are asking you to help us achieve whatever national objectives we have by accepting some of these individuals who are coming into the United States. And let us assume hypothetically that St. Kitts and Nevis said, no, we shall not. And let us assume that the United States then said, well, you're not a good friend, and as a consequence of that, we will have to restrict Kittitians and Nevisians from coming to our shores. You can't get a visa anymore. I assure you that the same pundits who now criticize the government would be asking for the government to resign because there is now no possibility for our people to travel to America. Bearing in mind that all of us have family, friends, and engage in business activities with the United States. I feel, and for what it is worth, that the difficulty that I have seen is that each of these small countries is trying to go it alone. I feel that on matters this important, we ought to have engaged at a regional level. I feel CARICOM should have been the right forum to engage with the United States. And absent CARICOM's engagement, the OECS should have been the next step, so that what we could then have is a CARICOM-wide policy or an OECS-wide policy, not as we have seen it, where it appears that St. Kitts and Nevis has said this is their position, Antigua and Barbuda said this is theirs, and then we see Dominica saying this is theirs. I've not seen the coordination. In fact, if I believe it's Article 6 of the treaty establishing CARICOM that calls for coordination of foreign policy among CARICOM members. And so whilst it is not for me, because I'm on the outside looking in, and I am not au fait with the negotiations and what would have happened on the inside, but I would have thought that there should have been some opportunity for these governments, when approached bilaterally, to say these are matters on which we would wish to have a regional perspective, and to invite then the CARICOM Secretariat to engage. In fact, it comes at a time when our own Prime Minister is now chair of CARICOM, and our own Foreign Minister is chair of COFCOR, which is the foreign relations arm for the region. And so I thought that that would have been a better approach. Maybe that approach would not have yielded any different result, but certainly the United States and others would have understood that when they deal with us as a region, they deal with us en bloc. They deal with us as a region and not as individual countries. Now, I am not going to stand here as the Premier of Nevis, as somebody who has been in government, including in government at the national level, and simply criticize, because as I said, the burden of leadership is heavy. And oftentimes you need to make difficult decisions, decisions that you hope will protect the wider community. And I just ask you members of the press and public who are listening to consider, if an announcement were made tomorrow that we could not anymore travel to the United States, would we be happy with that? Would we applaud that? Would we say that that is an appropriate result that we are prepared to live with because we said no to receiving refugees or deportees from America? So that is a matter I think that we need to look at. The final question from you, Ms. Budgeon, was how many will be coming? I can't answer that. As I said, I am not in government at the national level, and these are matters being dealt with at that level. So that's a question, I think, for the next time the Prime Minister has his round table that you need to put to him.
Premier, I'm back at the podium. I know that you just spoke about the consequence to the Federation, but what about protecting our people as well? If some of these people have committed crime, etc., how will our leaders protect us? And that is the important question.
Well, from what I understand, again, taking the Prime Minister at his word, that we are not accepting people who are violent criminals or have been involved in any such, I would think that that would be a prerequisite, that if you've been involved in violent crime, then you're not welcome here. Clearly, we have to accept our own nationals being sent back. But I would not think that we would agree to accept violent criminals from other nationalities being sent to our shores. My understanding is that this does not extend to those. Again, I'm taking the Prime Minister at his word in terms of what he has said. And I hear you, Ms. Budgeon, about protecting our people. But really, it's a question of how best to protect our people. Because we can say no, and therefore protect our people from others coming in that we don't know and we're not comfortable with. But we also can protect our people by ensuring that our people continue to have rights of travel around the world and certainly to the U.S. People go to the U.S. for medical, they go to the U.S. for see friends, to holiday, to do a manner of things. Which of the two protections, when you weigh them, is more significant? Those are the hard decisions that leaders have to take. And as a leader myself, I understand that. And all I think that we can do as leaders is just to be straightforward and honest with the public and let the public understand that these are the pressures that we have to deal with. And therefore, these are the decisions and the consequences of those decisions, because every decision will have consequences. And so sometimes it's really a question of which evil do you choose? The Prime Minister clearly and his team would have said that accepting these individuals is the lesser of the evils that we can choose. And so they have gone down that road. And so I am hopeful that this will all work out. When I was Foreign Minister many years ago, I can tell you that we had an existing protocol where we accepted our own deportees. So if you went to America and you, or England or Europe, because all of them do it, and you offended the law in somewhere, you overstayed and you were caught, you were sent home, we had an obligation. In fact, I remember one scenario where a youngster had left here at age 6, moved to the Virgin Islands back in the day, and then moved up to America, was involved in criminal activity, had been in prison several times. But that youngster had no St. Kitts Nevis passport. Left here back, he was now, I think, 57, I believe, at the time, if I recall correctly. And they actually demanded that we provide a passport for the youngster so that the youngster could fly and come home. And, we had that obligation because at the end of the day, he's a national of St. Kitts and Nevis. This takes it further because this is now saying people with no connection, no citizenship, no nationality, the U.S. is asking us to take. What we have not heard much of is what the nature of the conversation was like. That is why I'm forced to construct a hypothetical, because I said I was not there. But just based on snippets that I've had from here and there, it does appear that it was a difficult conversation that was had. And so this is a decision that has been arrived at in relation to these individuals coming into the country. It is my hope that the individuals will be few and far between, and that we'll be able to cope adequately with those who will come. I prefer, and I've said and been very clear that we need to grow our population, but I prefer to grow it organically, to grow it our way, not for it to be imposed on us. But nevertheless, we are where we are. We must confront not the world as we would like it to be, but the world as we know it. And this is the world that we live in. Any other questions for me? Can you come back to the microphone?
Yes, Mr. Premier. Did you respond to why those nationals cannot return to their own islands or their own countries?
Again, I don't know. Again, it's difficult because I'm only forced to speculate. I was not privy to any of that discussion. As I say, when I was foreign minister, I know that the practice was to deport individuals to their home country. I can speculate, which probably is not the best thing to do, but I can speculate and think that if some of those people are asylum seekers, then usually if you're an asylum seeker or a refugee, you're saying, for example, that I am being oppressed or there's a problem in my home country. So once that is the case, it clearly would not be possible for the United States to deport you to your home country, because that would be violative of international law. So that might explain why they're seeking to say, I prefer to send you to a third-party country, because I really can't send you back home. We have used a broad language of deportee, but deportee language is normally associated with those who have offended the law in America. And offending the law, they may be simply overstaying. So it doesn't necessarily mean a violent offender. But the difficulty is that most deportees must go back to the country from whence they came. That's why I use the example of the 6-year-old boy who had become a man of 57 and we had to take him. And so I feel that this makes more sense if understood in the context of refugees or asylum seekers, because you can't send them back to the country from whence they came, because that is the very reason they're saying they require asylum. They're saying that they're being persecuted or are likely to be, killed or something of that nature. So I think that when I look at it and analyze it, even though the language that has been used is deportees, I think it probably makes more sense if we understood it in the context of refugees and asylum seekers. Basically, it seems to me America is saying, listen, go cool out in Nevis, St. Kitts, go cool out in Antigua, Dominica, rather than being in Michigan or Texas while your claim is processed. And we know that those claims can, because apparently the system in the U.S. was that once the people get there, seek asylum, then there's a whole process that can take years. And while that process is ongoing, those people are living in America. So I believe that that, to me, sounds a more plausible explanation. But again, I hasten to say that this is me speculating because I have not been privy to the internal conversations that have happened between the United States and St. Kitts and Nevis, or with the rest of the region for that matter. Any other questions for me?
Good morning, Premier. Andre Huey, SK Newsline and TVC Channel 14 St. Kitts.
Good morning, Mr. Huey.
I have a few questions, but I will start with the one you left off with on the issue of the refugees. You stated earlier in your response to the first question that was asked that the approach should have been a CARICOM approach as opposed to an individual approach. But how easy would that be, considering that the approach of the U.S. government now seems to be engaging individual countries as opposed to the bloc? In this case, we see where St. Kitts, in the first week of the month, we see number of countries announcing this MOU that they would have signed with the US government. So CARICOM seemed to have been, pushed aside in this approach, and the individual countries were approach in this case. And while you're responding to that, as a former foreign affairs minister, you could probably speak to looking at the current geopolitical happenings in the region, most notably what happened to Venezuela, the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. There are some who feel that CARICOM's response was not stern enough, that CARICOM took the safe route, as most other countries have, while there are some countries who are more vocal against what they thought is a violation of international law. Could CARICOM or can CARICOM be sterner in its approach to the U.S. as it pertains to this particular issue, considering that it could have implications for the entire region? Going back to the SSG and the Destiny agreement, are you comfortable and satisfied that the town hall meetings and the efforts that the NIA would have made to inform the public about the law and about the project, including the developers themselves, that people are adequately satisfied that Destiny will be a good project and it should go ahead? And while speaking to that, you made reference to pundits and persons who seem to oppose the project, most notably some of them on St. Kitts. And I notice also that you have been very vocal about persons on St. Kitts in particular who are not in favor of the project or have concerns about the project. Do you think that the concerns that have been raised are legitimate, that these concerns are questions that should be looked at, especially considering that the Prime Minister has recently said that certain things will be looked at as it pertains to the SSE legislation? It will be going back to Parliament soon. Those questions for now.
Thank you, Mr. Huey. Individual countries can be approached and are approached all the time. What is important is our response. And all I'm saying is, again, speaking from the outside, looking in, and not being privy to the discussions, is that when these countries are approached individually, at the bilateral level, to say that we would like you to accept these third-party individuals, that we could have, as a collective, said, this is a matter for the region, and therefore let us engage with CARICOM. That's all I'm suggesting. I'm not sure if that was done and was rejected. I am simply suggesting, with absent having all the information, that to my mind would have been a preferred approach. So that instead of each Prime Minister, as we have seen, Prime Minister Skerrit, Prime Minister Brown, Prime Minister Drew, getting up and saying, we've done this thing, that you could perhaps have had a statement from the CARICOM Secretariat saying after negotiations, this is the position. Or, as I said, if not there, then the OECS level, since all of these governments are also part of the OECS. So that's just a suggestion. You asked, could CARICOM have been stern in its approach in relation to Venezuela? I would answer your question, which I shouldn't do with a question, to what end? So CARICOM issues a stern statement. What will that, in your opinion, achieve? I feel the Venezuela situation was handled poorly, all around. It was in 2019, if I recall, when I was in my then role as foreign minister. And interestingly enough, our then Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, was chair of CARICOM. And we journeyed to Montevideo in Uruguay on this very issue of Venezuela. 2019. That's, by my math, 7 years ago. And we were there, and I recall, because I saw some photos recently, that Prime Minister Mia Mottley, Barbados, was there. I recall that the Foreign Minister Belize was there. Our Prime Minister was there. And there was something coming out of that called the Montevideo Mechanism, which was signed off on by Uruguay, Mexico, and CARICOM, setting out a framework for engagement with Venezuela. I would not be surprised if members of the press have either never heard of the Montevideo Mechanism or don't know what I'm talking about, because after some intense discussions there, this mechanism was developed and then, in my opinion, promptly forgotten about. COVID intervened, in fairness, shortly thereafter. And the world was distracted because we were engaged with COVID 2020 and 2021. But in my opinion, there was an opportunity to re-engage with the Maduro administration in Venezuela, again at the CARICOM level, to look at the utility of the framework of the Montevideo mechanism, seeing that it was fashioned by us as a regional initiative, and to see how that could have worked. And again, I am not privy to whether there were backdoor discussions and conversations, but just from what's available in the public domain, it does not appear that there was any engagement with Venezuela. In fact, I believe it was a couple of days before the invasion by the U.S. and extraction of President Nicolas Maduro that I had published a piece suggesting a particular approach in relation to that. And one of the suggestions was that we activate the Montevideo mechanism and also that we get the wise men of the region. I suggested, I believe, it was P.J. Patterson, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Kenny Anthony of St. Lucia. I'm not sure who else I had suggested, but I suggested, sorry? And Dr. Gonzalez, yes, Ralph Gonzalez, that these wise men of the region could have been sent out as emissaries to speak with President Maduro. But also I think we needed to activate our embassies in Washington. We needed to activate our presence at the Organization of American States. We needed to activate our presence at CILAC, which is a combination of Latin American and Caribbean states. We had all of these levers. It wasn't just CARICOM, you know. We had CARICOM, we had CILAC, we have the OAS. And I thought that we could have sent emissaries to Washington and allowed the region to be a part of the solution. We had the Montevideo mechanism, which was designed by the region, and we have the wise men and women of the region who could have assisted. None of that was done. And obviously, by the time I said anything publicly, not that I'm suggesting that they listened to me, but by the time I said anything publicly, it was only a matter of days. I think it was January 3rd that the United States initiated their military action. I think any one of us who says that we are comfortable with military action to extract or to get rid of the lead of any country would perhaps not be telling the truth. It's, for me, a very unfortunate precedent when that can happen, because what that does, it elevates might and makes it right. Especially in my opinion that there were other diplomatic means that could have been mobilized and could have been engaged with to achieve the result. Now, I will not get into whether Maduro was good or bad. That is not a matter for me. I believe that what we have to do as small island states is to insist that all of us, the powerful and the powerless, the strong and the weak, respect the rules of international law. Because once we lose those rules, then the powerless have no protection whatsoever from the powerful. And that, for me, is my primary concern on that matter. We will see what happens with Venezuela. Venezuela has been a friend to the Caribbean. And Nicolas Maduro himself, as you know, has visited St. Kitts and Nevis. And it has been of assistance to many in the region, especially in the difficult times when Hugo Chavez, as it was, offered us the Petro-Caribe arrangement that benefited a lot of these islands. And so we'll have to wait and see, Mr. Huey, now what happens. But I am just sounding, if you will, the cautionary note that we all have to insist that we adhere to the rules of international law. Because without the rules of the international law, we will fall back to the rules of the jungle. And you know how the jungle operates.
Just a clarification
Yes.
on that. As you say that, some experts believe CARICOM should have at least said just what you said, that all parties involved should respect international law, etc., etc. They avoided mentioning anything to that effect. What they did say, and I'm looking at the statement here, is that the region reiterates its call for peaceful dialogue through diplomatic channels to ensure Venezuela's stability, good governance, democracy, prosperity, etc.
Is that all that they said? I thought that they reiterated the principles in relation to international law.
Well, this was a statement that came out on the 3rd. I know they released two
They
statements.
released a subsequent statement.
A subsequent
I believe,
statement.
yes.
Okay, but I don't remember this second statement had anything to do with the international law part.
Yeah, well, but I do feel that if that were not mentioned, I recollect that I saw the second statement and that there was some reference. But whether or not it was there, Mr. Huey, I do feel that we have to join that call because, as I said, absent international law, absent the legal norms that we have lived and the rules that guide us, then we are nothing more than the law of the jungle. And we know, as I said, in the law of the jungle, only the powerful survive. And so we have to be mindful of that. Destiny, you asked about the town hall meetings and whether people are adequately satisfied. I do not know about the adequacy of the satisfaction of people. I can't speak to that. I know that as a government, this project has had the most consultation of any project in the history of Nevis. As a government, we would have met with the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. We met with the Bankers Association. We met with the contractors, heavy equipment operators. We met with the youth, 6 farmers. We met with the churches. We met with the teachers. We met with the police, the high command. We met with the general population. We met with the opposition, right in the cabinet room. Invited them and shared the details of the project. Never happened in the history of any project. So if people at this stage say that they don't have enough information, then I don't think that that could possibly be correct. Now, just last night, I went to a meeting of some potential investors, and as I came back, I was approached by a young man at Four Seasons. And he said to me that he attended a town hall meeting that was held, and that he was concerned that people had come to that town hall meeting not to hear a thing, to learn a thing, but to disrupt. Because he said he was at the back, and the level of noise and mayhem that they had, he could not even hear what was going on. So on the one hand, you had people saying, I need information. But when the information and the opportunities for information were provided, they were not interested in getting any information, which really lends the lie to the idea that they're concerned. Because how you can be concerned about something you don't know what this something is? I heard one lady get up in a meeting, that one of the stakeholder meetings I have, and she said, she started by saying, I am ignorant about this project. I know nothing about it, but I don't like it. So my response to her, if you're ignorant, sit down and listen and learn. That would seem logical. How do you start by saying you're ignorant of something but you don't like it? And that has been part of our problem. You've had people responding emotionally to what they hear, what talk should they listen to, what somebody tell them, rather than the opportunities. And I listed them out for you. No project has had that level of stakeholder engagement by any government. None. And we did all that in an effort to say to our people, hey, these are the facts. Then I got a Destiny had its own set of engagements. And it's interesting, Mr. Huey, when people don't hear what they want to hear, or what they perhaps been programmed to hear, they resort to the usual, the matele. Because I gather that Mr. Jensen, who's the promoter behind Destiny, had some town hall engagement. And I guess there was not town hall, I think he appeared on some radio program. And I guess there was not the gotcha moment that some were looking for. And I saw a comment that made me laugh. They say, oh, Mark, don't tell him what to say. Mark, don't tell him what to say. Yeah? Poor Mark, who's down here, trying to do his best. Have time to say, telling people what to say. But it brings us back to the reality that we face in the country. That there's some people who are just opposed for the sake of opposing. And when you drill down, you start to ask people, well, what exactly about the project you oppose? You're here to hear foolishness about white people and racists and this kind of thing. I have been amazed, Mr. Huey, that people who live in America all their life leave Black Nevis, Black Brownhill and Black Barnescott and Black Cotton Ground, gone America, white America, and start to cuss white people. Why them not come home? Why them not come home? They not, listen, they don't want to come home, you know. They work with white people in white firms and white establishments every day and tell us how well they're doing. But when it comes time for an opportunity to develop Nevis, they say, white people bad and racist and terrible and this and that. I'm here at my age now, 57. Praise God, I reached 57 just recently. And what I can say is that you have good people and you have bad people in the world. You have good white people, you have bad white people. You have good black people, you have bad black people. You have good Indians, Chinese, whatever word you want to say. People are people at the end of the day. And so this hysteria that has been whipped up, which is based, in my opinion, on racist rhetoric, is really unhelpful. And some of the people, one of the fellows I see says something about white people. Somebody contact me and say, I should screenshot it and send it to his company in America and see if the CEO feel good about that. I say, no, man, I don't get myself involved in that thing. Because it's like a dual, you know, a dual, well, let me not even dual, a hypocrisy, let me use that word, that you're seeing, right? And I'm reminded, and I've said time and time again, that when the Four Seasons came, there was similar sentiments expressed, you know. People cuss and carry on and say they don't want the white people, they can't use the beach. And well, a man say we're going to get the coconut from and we're going to catch a crab now because the hotel. Which of us, 35 years on, can say with a straight face that Four Seasons has not contributed significantly to the development of Nevis? And St. Kitts. And St. Kitts. The reason I emphasize St. Kitts is because I was told on good authority that once Four Seasons was closed some time ago, American Airlines reduced the flights to St. Kitts. So the impact on the economy in St. Kitts from the Four Seasons is also profound. So I say these things to say that sometimes when you hear people and making noise and making noise and making noise, you listen, because as a servant of the people I must listen. But at the end of the day, I have decisions to make to advance Nevis. I have to look at those 200 to 300 youngsters coming into the workforce every single year and tell them what the opportunities are in Nevis for them. You realize, Mr. Huey, that the outside world is getting more and more hostile to us. It used to be back in the day that you could say, man, now work in Nevis, so let me jump on the boat and go St. Thomas, let me go Tortola, let me go England, let me go Canada, let me go America. Countries are tightening up around the world. It therefore says to us as a government in Nevis and as a government in St. Kitts, we must start to create opportunities at home. That's what we must do. And that path is not necessarily going to be easy. You have to go out there and you have to find investors, you have to find investment. No investment is going to be perfect. But what Destiny offers is the opportunity for a significant investment in an area of Nevis that is currently uninhabited. A restoration of the ecology in that area. Significant job creation and business and commercial activity for the island. Multiple percentage growth in terms of our GDP. We're talking about people coming in to create in Nevis opportunity. Which, as I say, as I walk around, a number of our people are meeting me and telling me, boy, we need to get the thing going. A fellow with a truck said to me, he said, to put it in his language, he said, my truck need work. My truck hungry for work. That's what he said. So you have people who are theorizing. I ask you to do me a favor. Look at the age group of those who are out there vehemently against this project. Look at the location. That is where they live. You would realize that the majority of them, I've done my research, you know, majority of them are here making noise, don't live their life. They must collect Social Security. And the majority of them don't necessarily live in Nevis. And you ask the question now, what alternatives are they offering for those who are 18 and 20 and 25 and looking to make a life in Nevis? Knowing that the safety valve, if you will, that used to exist, where people used to go along the Bronx and Brooklyn, that those safety valves are closing off globally. We have to do for ourselves. And so, leadership, as I say, is difficult. I go back to that. Decisions have to be made. Not everybody is going to agree. But then I'm reminded as a student of the Bible, that God's own Son came, and not everybody agreed with him. In fact, they so violently disagreed that they crucified him. And in fact, when the old criminal, Barabbas, was put next to God's righteous, unblemished Son, and Pontius Pilate said to the mob, which one I should free? They said, free the old criminal and kill Jesus. That biblical account tells us all we need to know about human nature. And so, Mr. Huey, decisions have to be made. The NIA has taken a decision that this is a good project and that we want to push the project forward. We have listened, consulted, we have made adjustments, we have gone back based on the feedback from those consultations, and we have reported to the federal government that we are ready to move forward. So that is where we are at this point, and we will just have to progress, just as we progress with Four Seasons, just as the island progressed with other developments, and just as in St. Kitts, they progressed with Christoph Harbour and with Kittitian Hill, and with Park Hyatt, and with all the projects they've had in St. Kitts. I want to address something, because you say I have been speaking out, and that is, yes, I'm speaking out, because there are some elements in St. Kitts, you see, who I find to be grievous to my spirit. You know why? I don't like people pretending they love me when I know they don't love me. I like people who are straightforward. Be straight. Because I find some in St. Kitts who are now professing to love Nevis so much to stop a project that will add to the development of Nevis, have always been silent in situations where Nevis was suffering. I have said to some of the pundits on St. Kitts, who are quick to go on radio and say all kind of things on social media, show me the post that you made or the comment that you made when CBI revenues were flowing down College Street gut like a torrent. It was a river of money, billions of dollars, and Nevis was living on overdraft and was asking for a fair share. Not one of them, Mr. Huey, had a word to say. They like it so because it suited them. Now all of a sudden, Nevis is supposed to get a multi-billion-dollar investment. Oh, no. We're against that. That can't happen. And suddenly these people's conscience and love for Nevis has been awoken. You have a saying here, and they say you can fool Shirley, but you can't fool Panko. I don't know if they have them kind of saying where you come from, Mr. Huey. I am singularly unimpressed with those types of hypocrites who suddenly have found something they said in their conscience and on top of them love Nevis, and they are there to protect Nevis. But when Nevis was on her knees asking, and I will help raise our voice as our brothers and sisters for fairness in the Federation, not one of them opened their mouth. And I'll tell you what I think is afoot here. There are some who feel that a project like this will catapult Nevis. That's what's happening. I like to listen, I listened to a pundit the other day saying how against the project he is, and he asked the question, do people realize that if this project happens in Nevis and the project is successful, Nevis going to want more political power, That's the question he asks. Nevis will want more political power. And therefore the project ought not to happen because you don't want Nevisians to be in any position to ask for any more political power. I'm not saying that's a general consensus. I'm saying that was his view. And so we need to listen. And I am here to say that I don't want to hear a thing from any pundit in St. Kitts about any development on Nevis unless that pundit could point me to the position where he or she was also out there actively asking for Nevis to get a fair share and a fair shake in the Federation. If you're not prepared to do that to help me, don't come now. Right? You can't hate me last night and love me this morning. That's how the thing works. Right? And that's my concern about many of them who are out there talking. Not only that, big projects are happening in St. Kitts, you know. Mr. Huey, the way the conversation has gone around, especially in St. Kitts, you wouldn't believe that big projects are ongoing in St. Kitts. A man sent me a video the other day of some massive earthworks and thing up at Fort Thomas Hotel. Which are the pundits in St. Kitts you hear saying anything about those projects? You ask, is the public adequately satisfied? Where were the town hall meetings in St. Kitts about any of those projects? You live in St. Kitts. You are a member of the media. Can you say you know what the Fort Thomas project is all about? But you don't hear.
But one of the pundits did speak out against that.
Well, one, Lord, maybe one, if you say you find one.
One who has been very vocal.
Huh? If you hear one. But the point that I'm making is that developments are happening right in St. Kitts as we speak. Kittitians don't have a problem with development in St. Kitts. But Kittitians are telling Nevisians that we should not develop the South Coast in Nevis. Oh, that could, no, sir. How that could make sense? How that could make sense? And that is the problem I have, and maybe people don't like, because, you know, the problem I have in the country, you know, Mr. Huey, when you talk like this, they say I'm being divisive. They like to say I'm being divisive. Well, how is it being divisive by telling the truth? Christoph Harbour, nearly the entire Southeast Peninsula, went to a single developer. Thousands of acres on the Southeast Peninsula went to a single developer. Which pundit you ever hear saying that Christoph Harbour shouldn't happen and this is wrong and the land must be kept for our local people? And all the arguments you hear now in Nevis, which one of them you heard said that about Christoph Harbour? Christoph Harbour starts from you reach the tunnel. From you reach the tunnel till you reach over, what they call over there, where the sea bridge. It's Christoph Harbour. And so they did not have those arguments when it was development happening in our sister St. Kitts. And I'm happy for development in St. Kitts. They didn't have the level of venom and the level of, you know, every week there's a talk show because something is wrong with that and the land is going to a private person and losing our patrimony. All of a sudden now, a developer who incidentally is a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. I need to keep saying that because one of the things that I think has been lost in all of this discussion about destiny is that the man who's behind destiny holds the same passport like I do. And what it says to us is that we need to come to a reckoning and an understanding. Because if, as the numbers suggest, we have over 50,000 Oliver Jensens out there. Well, if all of them decide to come home because they have a passport for St. Kitts and Nevis, what are we going to tell them? Can we stop them? You see, there's a much bigger issue at work here, at play. Nevis never gave out one passport yet. We have no control over the Citizenship by Investment Program. In fact, the only thing Nevis has been doing is asking for a fair share of the proceeds for years now. I hear the Prime Minister in a statement say, what, Nevis is owed money? I'm asking him to send the money since he recognized Nevis is owed the money. But hundreds of millions of dollars that Nevis could have had for our development, we did not get. But the passports that were issued for developmental money coming into the country, those people have certain rights to St. Kitts and Nevis, just like you or I. And therefore, those people can come in, and if they want to buy 1 million acres, if they could find it, they can buy it. Because we have an Alien Land Holding License Act which says that non-nationals must apply for permission to purchase property. But if you're a citizen, you don't have to apply. And so that is somehow being lost in this whole debate. And the pundits and thinkers, to my mind, are ignoring the fact that the reason that Mr. Olivia Jensen can come in and buy, the reason that Miss Ann Bass of blessed memory could have bought 800 acres, the reason that they can purchase property is because they were given the citizenship of the country, not by Nevis, because Nevis now have no control over that, by the federal government. And so the people have come now and they've come and they say they want to invest. Well, we need investment. And so you hear all kinds of stories and all kinds of chatter. But I get very agitated when I hear the boys in Sinkits getting on radio and saying what they're saying, because I'm saying to them, you can have mouth for Nevis, but you don't have mouth for yourself. And you can't now tell me how much you love Nevis and how much you want to protect the lands in Nevis for Nevisians. When in Sinkits, the whole of Crystal Harbor went. And I never see no placard and I never see no protest. Right? That is the concern that I have, that there's a level of hypocrisy, I'm going to call it what it is. And there's a feeling in some quarters, and I will say it because it is true, that Nevis must stay to the back of the bus. But not while Mark Brantley is the Premier of Nevis. Not while I'm here. Because I don't belong in the back of no bus, and nobody in Nevis belongs in the back of the bus. We're equal citizens in this country, imbued with equal rights, like every other citizen, and the island must have the right to develop. And our young people coming out of sixth form, coming out of CSS and GSS, must have opportunity in this island of their birth. And if I'm wrong in that, then let me be wrong. But I will die on that hill. That I, as the Premier of Nevis, must create opportunity for our people on Nevis. And that is what I'm doing. I spoke about gaming. You think I felt good being in the cold in Barcelona? Not me. But I went. And I went because I'm trying to diversify. I'm trying to get new revenue streams. I'm trying to get new jobs for Nevis. I spoke about the movie industry. We're trying our best on this island. And now we've attracted a significant investor to the island. You hear people talking all kinds of things. But when Buddy Darby had come at Crystal Harbor, I never hear them attacking Buddy. Anybody ever say what Buddy believe in? They go and go research all the people them involved in Nevis and say, oh, them believe in this and who are atheists and who are, what they call it? Libertarian. You ever hear anybody write any article and say what Buddy believe in? Buddy's my friend, by the way, so I'm not attacking him. Bill Gates coming here by a whole hotel long of 4 seasons. Anybody ever say anything about Bill Gates? Or what did Bill Gates believe in? All of a sudden, these are now the talking points and the pundits. You know, Mr. Huey, I want you to invite me on a program in Sinkis. I want a lineup, I want to have some of them there with me. That is what I want. I don't like sometimes when I'm listening because I can't call in and I hear them, because I would want to back up some of them and ask them, you love Nevis? Let me talk about it now. Because some of them were in government. Some of them were in government. Now they've got the biggest opinions about what is best for Nevis. But you ask them the question, well, when you were there, what did you ever do to help the people of Nevis? You can't point to a thing. I could go on all day about it because it agitates me. As I say, it's vexatious to my spirit when I hear them. Right? But I feel that we have done the best that we can in relation to this in terms of ventilating in a real way, allowing people an opportunity to speak and to hear their views. And I will tell you, you know, that's why I say, look at the demographic of someone who was talking, where they live, the age. Because my most, how should I put it, enlightening meeting was with the sixth formers. Because when we met with the sixth formers, we had some concrete ideas and proposals. They didn't come there to cuss nobody and to, you know, play no politics. They came there as young people looking for the best future for themselves. And that's what, you know, I'm now over the hill. As somebody said to me the other day, I have more years behind me than ahead of me. That's the reality. So I now must listen to them. I must hear them, and I must see the best I could do for them. Fellows who don't collect in Social Security and think, God bless them, but they have lived their life. They have lived their life, and some of them look like the only objective now is to prevent other people from getting an opportunity. Right? And I am saying, let's move, let's develop the country, and let our people be the beneficiaries of that development. We have anything further for me? So George, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Good afternoon.
It's afternoon already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Will and George, the Observer. Mr. Premier, can you tell us how many licenses have been issued thus far for the online gaming? Who is the regulator? How will Nevis know that it's getting its fair share of the 25%, seeing the fact that when you were in the unity government, you mentioned that you were in the yard? Now that you are in opposition and you have no access, to the books, how will we know that we are getting our fair share? As former Foreign Affairs Minister, what are your views on the exclusion of Haitians being part of the deportees that's welcome to the Federation? We have seen the bullying of America towards the Caribbean and other places. Do you believe it's time for the Caribbean to start looking east in terms of Africa, Asia, and so on for their development? Did you at any time ask the federal government for finances to finish the hospital or to do the project to do the road, on the south coast of Nevis? You mentioned earlier that a bid was secured to do the geothermal plant. At what cost? Can you give us an update on the Oversight Committee for the Destiny Project? How is the relationship between the CCM and the People's Action Movement? Is it possible that in the future, if needs be, there will be a coalition government between you guys?
Like everybody wake up 2026 morning, and what they say, you wake up and engaging in violence. Licenses thus far, I think we've only issued 2. Mr. George, as licenses for the online gaming, we started in December last year. So we've only issued 2, but I'm told that there are other applicants there's quite a rigorous process. So there are other applicants going through the process. The regulator is Mr. Phil Jones, who has many years in terms of regulation. He's also the regulator of international banking here. Fair share, how will we know? Good question. It was one of the issues that we discussed at length with the Prime Minister, and we worked out a mechanism where the Financial Secretary in St. and the Permanent Secretary of Finance in Nevis, they are coordinating on that. And thus far, for example, last year I saw at least 1 report that was sent. So the idea really is that that information will be sent to us so that we have verification through that coordination of those efforts. So this is the first time that we will actually be seeing numbers being sent officially from the Ministry of Finance in St. Kitts. You say, should we look east to Africa, Asia, etc. for development? Yes, I believe that. I've been preaching that for a while, that we need to look east, we need to look south, we need to look west, we need to look to the rest of the world. The truth is, I think, we cannot abandon the existing relationships that we have. We must seek to strengthen them with the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and Europe. But we must also seek new friends. And if you want any evidence of how new friends can be helpful, I was foreign minister when we finalized diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia. And the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has come forward with $20 million to help our geothermal project. None of our old friends have given us any actual money. But Saudi Arabia, a new friend, has been willing to do so. So it is important for us to develop friends. Taiwan, far away geographically, but has been one of our best friends over the years. And so I certainly agree with you that we need to look elsewhere, not abandoning, not to substitute, but to add in terms of our diplomatic engagements. You asked if I'd asked the federal government for money to finish the hospital on the south coast or to build a road on the south coast. The answer is no. That's not how St. Kitts and Nevis works. The federal government does not give Nevis money. The CBI proceeds, when they were in the SIDF fund, we could apply to that for funding for particular projects. But other than that, there is no line item in the federal budget for Nevis in terms of any money coming to Nevis projects. Nevis must paddle its own canoe and deal with its own financial affairs. You said a bid was secured for geothermal plant at what cost? Not the plant, the drilling. The drilling. I believe the number I saw was somewhere in the region of 38 million US dollars. However, I'm told that there's some clarification that has been sought because the number may come down. Let me put it that way. But the number that I was told was somewhere in that region of $38 million. Oversight Committee for Destiny Project, that has not advanced. I did write asking the opposition to nominate a member. Both members of the opposition have responded, and we're taking what they've said on board. So we have not yet moved forward with that. CCM-PAM relationship, I'm here as the Premier of Nevis, not as CCM, but I have a good relationship with everybody. I think that that's important. Exclusion of Haitians, a very important question, Mr. George. And again, the difficulty that I think we face as a nation is that you have the world as we would like it to be, and you have the world as it is. I have seen, for example, the same people who say that they're against destiny and 10,000 rich people moving to Nevis are saying that we should open up to Haitians coming. Who's right and who's wrong? Because if you open up the island to so-called rich people, you can be sure that they're not coming to rely on the island for anything. If you open up the island to other people who are fleeing a situation in their own countries, then we must be prepared to provide the housing and the health care and the education and the jobs and all the requirements. So to me, the analysis does not go past emotionalism on the Haiti question. Do I feel affinity for, love for, empathy for the people of Haiti? I do. But Mr. George, one of the difficulties I've had, and I don't want to get too philosophical about this today, is that in all the conversations that we had about the stated policy of excluding Haitians from this group of persons, I have not yet heard anybody articulate the view that the country, which is the oldest black country in the region, Haiti, has a responsibility. It almost seems to me that some are saying that St. Kitts, Nevis, Antigua, Jamaica have a responsibility for the Haitians. What about Haiti? When you make that argument, the response that you get is, oh, well, all these colonial powers have destroyed Haiti and interference in Haiti and this and that in Haiti and whatever. I don't know that there has really been anyone who has stood up and said that Haiti must take responsibility for Haiti. And that the approach that we've taken over the decades is to somehow to treat Haiti as some stepchild that needs our intervention and our assistance, and that Haitians are people who are fleeing and we must therefore provide for them. Haiti is a vast country compared to us. When I hear some of our people talking, I say, I wonder if we have thought about what we are asking for. Because the last I checked, Haiti had somewhere in the region of 12 million people. If only 10% of those people were to decide to move, 1 million people. Name me one country in the Caribbean who could absorb them. Forget about little sink as Nevis, because we would sink. Not even Jamaica, the largest, would be able to absorb them. And so I feel, again, just as the destiny arguments were advanced earlier, we need to move beyond emotionalism. Whenever I start to hear people say, oh, Haiti is a black country and these are black people and we must look out for black people, I said, it sounds marvelous. But the realities of it, and I could tell you, Mr. George, and this may sound controversial, but I think it is reality. And I try to be a plain speaker. If our doors were thrown open tomorrow to Haitians, and they will start to pour into St. Kitts and Nevis, the very same Kittitians and Nevisians will start to cuss. Or they're taking the jobs. Right now you have people coming in here in an orderly way, under the OECS freedom of movement, and the same people here in St. Kitts and Nevis complaining. In fact, I have been accused of saying the government favors foreigners because they go to certain establishments now and they're seeing people from Dominica or from St. Lucia working at those establishments. That's a handful, that's a trickle. Imagine if you were to say, open the doors and say, all right, the pundits say that Haitians are our brothers and sisters, so we must open the door. Mr. George, you have room home by you to accommodate a few? Huh? You know, but these are the questions now that nobody's answering those questions, you know. People are just talking because what radio and social media has done for us is it has given everybody a voice. Whether they're chatting sense or they're chatting nonsense, everybody have the opportunity to chat. So people are just talking. You start to drill down now in terms of the consequences. And you start to say, well, all right, given the difficulties that we know exist in Haiti, the difficulties exist in all of these islands. But given the fact that Haiti doesn't appear at this point to have a functional government, and the situation is very volatile, if you were to make that announcement tomorrow that, hey, the door is open, I am not saying that it's necessarily a bad decision. I am just asking whether or not our people will then be prepared for the consequences of people coming in large numbers, looking for jobs, looking for housing, looking for health care, looking for schools. The Minister of Education here keeps telling me how the schools are full. We need investment in our education sector. So on the one hand, you have a government which is saying, that is my government, let us look for investment to expand the economy. Let us bring the so-called rich people to grow the economy, to invest, to build villas, homes, them who need lawyers and accountants, landscapers. Let us grow. And people say, we don't want that. Same people then said, open the doors and allow the floodgates. And then I asked the question, what then? What then? Would our people be prepared to pay more taxes so that we could have more revenue to make the provision? If people come in large numbers into the country who aren't coming with capital to invest or with resources, let me use the language again, rich people. They're not rich people. Well, you know that they're coming therefore to look for jobs. They come to look for opportunity. They come to find housing. How are we going to educate them? How are we going to? Haitians come, for example, they speak French. Do we know, Mr. George, that one of the problems we're having in our school system right now is a lot of the youngsters who are coming from places like the Dominican Republic and from Haiti, because we do have Haitians here, that because of the language situation, we're having a real difficulty in the school because they can't keep up with the lessons, and our people are not a bilingual or multilingual people. These are all very legitimate concerns. So we can debate and philosophize, and we can engage in all manner of discussion about these decisions. But I come back to what I said earlier. Leadership is difficult, and leadership requires difficult decisions to be made. And that is not to suggest that every decision that leaders make is correct, but understand, and I want to make this point, that these are difficult decisions to make. And at the end of the day, the hope is that you make a decision which protects the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And that ultimately is the best that we can do. So that's as much as I would say on that. And I ask for any other questions if there are. Follow up.
Do you believe that the Prime Minister could put a cap on the amount of people Haitians could come in? And do you believe that it has caused more division among the CARICOM states?
Yes, I think that there will be a need for a cap. And I don't want to just restrict that to Haitians. I just think that there should be, we should look at, in a scientific way, the carrying capacity, if you will. We need to assess our schools, assess what can we carry in terms of population growth at this point. The Destiny project is talking about 7,000 to 10,000 people over the life of the project. That's another myth, because people seem to feel that planes are going to start to land tomorrow with 10,000 people. It doesn't work like that, right? The Destiny is probably going to be 3 years before anybody at all lives in the zone, because obviously you take time to build infrastructure and all of that. I remind people that 35 years after Four Seasons started, they just broke ground there for the last set of condominium units that they're doing down there. So 35 years later, Four Seasons is still building, right? So we understand development takes time. It's built out over time. But we will have to look at capacity, healthcare systems, school systems, and frankly, our economy. If your economy is growing, Mr. George, at enough of a rate, then you don't have to worry too much, because it then generates the jobs, and it also generates the revenue for the government that can allow the government to do what it needs to do. But if you have the economy which is not growing, or growing in a very sort of, how should I say, it's stagnant, because we record in 2 and 3 and 4% growth. In developed economies, that is excellent. But in our fledgling economies, we need double and triple digit growth. We need explosive growth. That's what we need. So we may have to consider that, but I would think that it will require some study, Mr. George, to determine from a scientific point of view what is the best approach in relation to carrying capacity of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I go back to my favorite beaten horse, and I remind you all that Bermuda is 21 square miles with 65,000 people. 21 square miles, 65,000 people. Nevis and St. Kitts has 104 square miles, and we only have 51,000 people. So we have 5 times the size of Bermuda, and we have less people than Bermuda. And Bermuda is the richest island in the region and one of the top wealthiest in the world on a per capita basis. We need people, but we need the right people. We need the right people. Anything further from you?
Shamika Bajin, Von Radio. I don't think that I mentioned that at first. Mr. Premier, you have been asking nationals to return home. What plans, programs, or initiatives are in place to accommodate them? Can you provide an update on the Charlestown Police Station? And you mentioned the Nevis Bureau of Standards building project. Is there a timeline for the project? And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Budgeon. Plans for nationals to return home. Yes, we in fact have published a new policy since January of last year. I would have spoken about that a few times publicly. We have opened an office. I think it's in the Solomon Arcade. And we have appointed this youngster, Mr. Delvin Clark, to head that office. The idea behind it is to provide a one-stop shop for our nationals in the diaspora looking to relocate. that policy lays out a significant raft of concessions that we're offering to them. And so the short answer is yes, we have a policy, we have a framework, and certainly I would want to get the policy to you so you could have a look at it yourself. And we have now set up the office. So the idea is that instead of going to the Ministry of Finance and having to deal with all that, you go to that we provide a hub, if you will, for those who are looking to come home. And we plan to build out that office and the capacity there, because our view is that more and more people are interested in coming home, and we fear that there will be some who will be sent home. So we have to prepare. I did a piece recently when I said that we can transform the new policies that we're seeing externally into a brain gain for the region. And I see that Prime Minister Gaston Brown in Antigua has picked it up. And he said that, yes, this is a good idea, and we need to encourage our people to help in our development. Let's face it, we have helped in the development of other countries. I mentioned Arthur France, who have left here. I think he's from Mount Lily, if memory serves. And Arthur started the Leeds Carnival. Now one of the biggest carnivals, and the first. A Nevis man did that. And since time immemorial, we go back to Alexander Hamilton. He left Nevis and founded the American financial system. We have been contributing to the development of the outer world. So is it too much to ask our people to contribute to the development of their homeland? And that is a simple appeal. I have, in making that appeal, Ms. Budgeon, heard some say that they need better health care and this need to work properly and this isn't good enough and whatever. And I smile because many left here and went away to imperfect conditions. But they went anyway. My father, blessed memory, was part of the Windrush generation. He said to me when they went to England in the 1950s, they couldn't even find housing. They saw signs in the doors which says, house for rent. No blacks, no Irish, no dogs. These are not matters of myth. These are facts. And yet they went in their thousands and they sent for their family and they struggled with racism. They struggled with deprivation. We have people living abroad right now, and some people are going to be upset to me for saying it, but they're living abroad right now in worse conditions than they live in Nevis. Some of them, when they see the homes and things that people here have in Nevis, they say, boy, how the young fella they get that house there? Because some are living abroad in worse conditions than they left in Nevis. And I'm saying to them, come home. You think I'm going to let anybody, Miss Budgeon, take the furnace with me in their land when I got a land of my own? We need our people to start to say, I sink is me from and I Nevis me from. I got some place that belong to me, you know? So don't pass your place with me in America and in England and wherever you are. I have a place that is my own. A man telling me the other day that some Caribbean people seem to be allergic to the Caribbean. Because anytime you mention them going home, they start to give you every reason in the world. Why? That's not a good idea. There is no region, and I've had the privilege of traveling a bit. I believe there's no region as beautiful as the Caribbean. Are things perfect? No. But things aren't perfect anywhere. With the way ice going on right now in America, you think I want to be in church and looking over my shoulder, I should be praising my Lord, and every sound I hear I think is ice? Is that anywhere for people to live? And in America, the thing about ice, you know, ice come in winter and in summer. It's not just winter ice. I want to send out the message clearly to our people, whether you're in Bronx, Brooklyn, Miami, wherever you are. You have a home here. Nevis loves you and Nevis wants you. Yes, things here aren't perfect, but the Nevis, many of them left, is a distant Nevis. I remember, you know, when I was studying in England, that's a long time ago to be sure, but when I was studying, I went to Leeds. A man in Leeds at the Mandela Center asked me, boy, Charles Brown shop still down there? His memory of Nevis was Charles Brown shop. Then Charles Brown shop done gone long time. So, you know, we need our people to re-engage. I know it won't be possible for everybody. People have their family, they have their ties. I recognize that. But for those who can, we need them to re-engage. And some of the times I think is excuses, you know. I can't go because this ain't perfect. But where they are, people complain about healthcare in Nevis. But the horror stories that you get out of developed countries. I had a young man here who was in England, was getting something done, surgery from the NHS. And he told me that if he missed the appointment, it would be another 9 months before he could get another appointment. Who in Nevis is waiting 9 months to see a doctor? So yes, it's not perfect. But my answer to our diaspora is come help us to make it perfect. Don't just stay away. Keep your ideas and your investment dollars away. And then tell us that what we have isn't perfect. Because what we have is also what you have. This is home. And I think home should be where the heart is. Charleston Police Station, I do not have an update. I'm hopeful that things there will be finishing shortly. The last update I gave was that they said they were doing finishings on the inside. I'm hoping that that's still the case. Bureau of Standards, I don't have details on when, like the length of the project, but I know the project has started, and I'm anticipating it really should be no more than 18 months from what I gather, but I don't have a formal response on that. Anything further for me?
Premier, earlier you spoke about the film industry, developing the film industry on Nevis. I know when MSR Media came here, there were some grand plans announced for a film academy and things to develop the film industry. Where are we with that? The MSR is no more here, or at least they do have property in the Federation, but they're not operating. And is the film development of the film industry just focused mostly on bringing films here, or are you looking to actually develop or have a development of films, indigenous films here in the Federation, with the help, of course, of overseas investors? Some time ago, you spoke about the Aquatics Federation and that the Nevis Island Administration was supporting them. They have been asking for land to build an aquatics facility in the Federation. I don't remember what you spoke about as it relates to that, but if you could speak about what support the NIA is offering the Aquatics Federation in the development of their own facility.
All right. You asked about the film industry in Nevis and the Film Academy and Acting Academy and all of these things that were discussed with MSR. Those were proposed joint initiatives with MSR. Obviously, MSR is no longer here, and those have sort of fallen away. We have not, however, given up hope, and that is why we have partnered with Juliet Jeffers, that I mentioned earlier, who came and had a series of acting classes and all of that to try to expose our people. And as a consequence, I think we have found that we have quite a good cadre of people who are interested, and young Miss Daniel is an example. You asked about indigenous films. Well, Pangirl is an indigenous film, even though Juliet Jeffers would have come from overseas. She's one of us. And that Pangirl crew and cast was almost entirely Nevisian. And that is why that short film now is being featured, as I pointed out, in that film festival in the United States, in Los Angeles. So we are already seeing the movement, if you will. When this film that is now being done here, I was very happy to hear that catering, makeup, set design, a lot of those services were all being provided locally. So it means, and I want to make the point, Mr. Huey, that when we talk about film, it's not just the actors and actresses or the people with the camera. You have sound, you have light, you have makeup, you have costume, you have food, you have catering, you have set design, you have all of these things. And people like Vaughn Anslin, our own well-known artist, has had that exposure. Young Tishan Wilkin, I think his name, has been involved. And so you have youngsters now who are emerging in front of and behind the camera. I think that's very important because that's what we need to build out the film industry. And then you asked me about land for the Aquatics Federation. We have already committed. In fact, we've formally written to them indicating that we have identified land for them. So that is no longer an issue. The deal that we had with them is that we would furnish the land and they would find the financing to build a pool that is proposed. And I think the pool is I don't think it's a 20 meter, I think. I can't. No, it's not Olympic size. But it's the same size pool that they use in like at the OECS level, and they say that is adequate for swimming, training, and for competitions. So we've already identified and committed to the land. We've written formally to tell them that. So they now have to do their part, which they were, my understanding, was dealing with certain international swimming organizations to raise money. So we are there, we're partnering, and we wait to hear from them. Okay. Anything further for me?
Earlier, you mentioned sending down the proposal down to the federal government. What are your views on the Nevis civil society and the town hall meeting they had last year? And they are planning to take the project to court if the agreement is signed. And have you gotten any results from the testing done on the airport? That's it.
I'll take your last question first because I'm told that those results are imminent, that they should be received shortly. This is so the public knows there's some soil testing that was done. I think they're being done by an outfit in St. Kitts. And this morning, Mr. Perkins would have said that they're waiting on those test results to come back, but we should have them shortly. Nevis Civil Society, Mr. George, I'm really not sure who or what is in Nevis Civil Society. I don't know. Is it a political party? What is this? Come, explain it to me.
It's a group of Nevisians, people from the Federation, was put together. I think Mr. Herbert and some others, they had a town hall meeting, including Mr. Hamilton and somebody from some psychologists. They had a town hall meeting last year in the same Charlestown Methodist Church.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, I confess I haven't really heard much about this. I know that there was a town hall that was being held, but I didn't attend. And I frankly didn't get much by way of feedback. So I can't speak to it. I don't know who this or what is this Nevis Civil Society, if they're a registered NGO or something of that nature, or if it's just a hodgepodge of people who decide that they are opposed to the Destiny Project. I truly can't speak. If they say that they're going to take legal action, then the question is who among them is going to take legal action? And what's always important about legal action is who among them is going to pay the lawyers to take the legal action. The people have a saying, say, talk is cheap, but whiskey costs money. So we'll wait to see what legal action they take and how they proceed on that. And of course, the courts are open to everybody. Anybody who feels that they have a grievance can go to the courts. That's the beauty of Nevis and our democracy. And so I don't know who they are, but I just encourage them, if they are opposed to this project, and everybody's entitled to a viewpoint, could they also use the intellect that they have to say to the government, hey, we suggest that this could be an alternative. Because I'm very open. My mind is not closed off. The cabinet's mind is not closed off to possibilities. And just yesterday, as I said, I was meeting with some potential investors. What we're discussing is other opportunities. Nevis is open for business, and we're definitely trying our very best to attract business. That was my message in Barcelona. Nevis is open for business. There's a sign that is up somewhere. Nevis is open for business. Growing the economy, expanding the economy, diversifying the economy. That is what we will go out. Anything further for me? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. You have kept me for a longer period, but I guess this is the first time back. So I will assume you're happy to see me. That's why you kept me. Thank you very much, Mr. Budgeon, Mr. George, and Mr. Huey, and certainly to NTV as well. I think we had a good session, and we look forward to seeing you next month at our press conference. Thank you. And for those going to St. Kitts, safe travels back. Thank you.